Hi guys, Oliver at DeltaXML here. Today we're going to walk through some simple configuration using XML Compare as an example. Note that I'm using a Java license today rather than REST, and I'll be using the command line to run some comparisons. Specifically, we'll be using two pieces of functionality, word by word and orderless comparison. This video assumes that you've already done the following: installed XML Compare and all prerequisites, and that you've already performed a comparison. If you haven't already completed these steps, you should refer to the earlier videos in this series. We'll cover configuration concepts in detail in another video, but for now we need to briefly look at pipelines. DeltaXML products work with two types of pipeline files, DXP and DCP. In short, DCP pipelines have some helpful pre-configuration that focuses on documents, whereas DXP allows you to tailor every part of the pipeline to your requirements. They are similar, but today we'll be configuring with DXP, using examples from our samples and guides documentation pages on our website. With that out of the way, let's get configuring. We're going to start with the word-by-word text comparison feature, which is normally enabled by default. This is really helpful when you need to see granular results in content such as a book, where small changes to punctuation and spelling are vitally important. You can see here I've already downloaded some input files to demonstrate with. I got these from our Bitbucket repository, which is linked in the documentation page. First, I'm going to run a comparison with word-by-word disabled, using the word-by-word.dxp pipeline. You can see here that although changes in the lines are only a couple of words, the entire line has been highlighted. Sometimes this is good enough, but in a big paragraph we need to be more precise. So, let's do the comparison again, but this time I'll add a parameter at the end of the command. Word by word equals true. Now when we look at the result, only the words that have changed have been highlighted on these lines, which is much easier to read. But what about the other lines? They haven't changed. Well, if we look at the input file, you can see we've done something clever here. By including these DeltaXML attributes, you can decide if you want to apply word by word to the entire document, or just to specific lines like you can see here. But this is completely optional. Okay then, let's look at another piece of configuration, comparing orderless elements. This functionality can be really useful, because sometimes the order of elements in a file is significant, and at other times it isn't. For example, in a recipe for an omelette, it doesn't really matter what order the ingredients are listed in, as long as you have them all. The order of instructions for making the omelette, however, are significant, because if you don't follow them in the right order, you won't have an omelette when you're finished. Now, if instead of making an omelette you're assembling a jet engine, it's absolutely critical to know when the order of instructions has changed, especially if there's a chance this slipped through review by accident. Now that we've got some context, let's do the configuration. Firstly, all the resources you need are available on our sample documentation and on the linked Bitbucket repository. As you can see, I've already downloaded these files. When you download them, make sure to put them in the same directory as the command jar file. First, let's run a comparison without configuration to see the result. These two input files are an address book that has been updated. You can see here the entries have moved around, but we might want to focus on whether the details have changed rather than their positions. To do this, we'll need a different pipeline. Let's look at the sample Orderless Comparison DXP pipeline. I'm going to leave the details for now, but you can see we've included a few filters and properties to tailor the comparison. What's really important here is that it's possible to configure the comparison so that it matches the right elements together. How does it do this, you might be wondering? Using this XSLT file, address-key.xsl, which is included in this pipeline as a filter. You can see here the important parts of the file are identified. For the person element, we've identified the customer ID attribute as a key, which allows us to find all matching records intelligently, and to identify the change within them. Then for children of the address list element, order is false, meaning we won't show changes to the order of these elements. For your own files, you can change these as needed. Now let's run the comparison with the Orderless Comparison pipeline. Note that now this DXP is in the folder, it's available in our list of pipelines on the command line. And here's the result. We know that these entries have moved, but because we've decided it's not significant, it isn't shown in the delta, allowing us to focus on significant changes to the content of these records. In this case, you can see that the root of the file says A equals B, meaning all of the content is the same. It's really that simple. Before we wrap up the video, there are a couple of things that I want to mention that will probably be helpful to you. The first is our huge library of features and resources, which is linked in the video description. If you haven't already, I would really encourage you to go to our documentation site and just have a scroll through the samples and guides available. There are dozens of them, and each comes with pre-configured files and instructions to get you working straight away. Furthermore, we've got some really powerful features for use cases that you might not have realised can even be solved, such as those on screen now. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we're here to help. We understand that not everyone has the necessary technical expertise to implement DeltaXML products, so our solution architects can help you with a proof of concept and the implementation of our software. Plus, we're always here to support your own development efforts, so if you're facing technical challenges, you have full access to the DeltaXML support portal throughout your evaluation. So, that concludes this video on basic configuration for XML Compare. Looking forward to hearing from you. Oliver at DeltaXML signing off.